Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this specific video, I am going to cover what is the difference between functional testing and non-functional testing, which is actually a part of software testing, presented to you by Muhammad Ilham Madim. I'm from TI3K, yeah. Okay, before we dive into the main topic, we actually have to know why they should be differentiate between the functional testing and non-functional testing. Like, why should we differentiate between two of them? First thing we have to know between those two, it actually has a different purpose and it has its own type, and there are a lot of it. So for the functional testing, it includes integration testing, interface testing, UAT, unit testing, system testing, and so on. Likewise to the non-functional testing, it has a lot of it, which I couldn't be able to cover all of them. I only point out some of the specific things. Okay, moving on to the functional testing. First, about the functional testing, right? We have to previously, if we have to build the application, whether it has to be a web or mobile app or anything that kind of related with software, we have to take a reference on the customer's needs, and we have to ensure that it has no error, because nobody, like no clients desires for the error. Eventually, if they are working on their job and they find error, it is like the application itself halt their productivity, which in some of the cases it isn't its purpose. And for the next one, usually functional testing is not directly looking into the code, but uh, reviewing the user interface, checking the API connection, database, is it secure, and client or server communication. It is not only related to the code itself, but we have to also consider the client server communication. Like if we are talking about the API connection, uh, some of the cases, if but it is rarely happen in the industry, I think. Like API, if you are going to deploy the application that has a third-party API, you are not supposed to be using a free one. Like get you have to get a full service of the API connection if you are using a third-party API, because uh, like if you use the free API, of course you have some limitations, like 10 requests per hour or something like that. And the best thing about the functional testing is it is flexible. Like you can do it with manual or automation testing. So after we all know about what is the context of functional testing, actually what to test, right? So some of them we can test about the basic usability of an application, accessibility or error conditions. So first one, basic usability. What is the basic usability? Basic usability is like if you are looking back into the background of why the software is created in the first place, like it has to be a reason, right? What should this application do? And after we have created the application, of course we have to make sure that yeah, it is working properly. Like the purpose of this application made is is complete gitu, and we have to make sure no error. That's of course. And then the accessibility, like if we are about to eh, if the developers already deploy their web, uh, I I take a case of a web development. Like, is it accessible by the clients or by the tester? If the product is a website, of course, it should be accessible on the domain. We can test the domain first, or if we can use the SEO. It is related so that our website can be on the first page of the Google search. So accessibility is important as well. And the last, what to test, error conditions. So about these error conditions, if we are making an information system like from scratch, of course, there are some cases, we have to declare some test cases, which needs to be run for each case. So the tester can detect the application whether it has errors or not, and it has to be very detailed because user behavior we cannot predict it. And after the all of these all of these things like basic usability, accessibility, error conditions has been done, the tester then give it to the developer and give the feedback out of it. So after we know all of those things what to test, right? We have to know about the example of functional testing, like what are the types of it. First of all, we have a unit testing in the first place. We have integration and user acceptance, and let's not forget about the regression testing. First, about the unit testing, usually what comes first in the mind is like black box testing and white box testing, uh, which, generally speaking, white box testing is eh, white box testing is about more to be on a like design side, like design and architecture of a software, and black box testing is getting into the more detail. And that's about the unit testing. It's usually checking the functions, not only the API. So that's all about the black box testing, as far as I know. And after we finish the unit testing, like each of the component, whether you have a microservice or not, like you have a three-tier architecture, whatever it is, you have to perform the unit testing just to make sure that each component is working properly. And then we have integration testing. Integration testing, the interesting one is after we have done the unit testing that is already working properly on its part, sometimes, like some cases, yeah, when it is connected with other function, like other feature, it has some clashes. So we have to make sure on this integration testing. Moving on, we have a user acceptance testing, or in short, UAT. UAT is more about the like checking on the initial requirement from the client. So we want to make sure that after the integration testing, like the feature is working properly and the feature is it has no error, it works seamlessly. But is it needed on the user requirement, or like, for some example, like UAT is like, to put it simply, UAT is just like making sure that the all of the testing before and the application at this point is met the requirement of the user. And after that, we have a regression testing. Regression testing is nothing more on like, apa ya, lebih ke just repeat the process after checked in detail about the unit testing, integration testing, UAT. We have to, like the software tester, have to clarify it again. So it just loops, but in general terms, looking on the bigger picture. So that's about the functional testing, and let's moving on to the non-functional testing. So non-functional testing, the goals are improved maintainability. The second one is enhanced knowledge of product behavior. And the third one, optimize on how the software is installed, set up, executes, and managed. So what does that mean? Looking on the first point, improved maintainability. Of course, we have, after the software developer created the application, like web, mobile, or something else, uh, I'm going to talk in detail about the web. Improved maintainability, right? If the software is already tested on the functional testing, it works properly fine. It has access to it. SEO is number one, like that. We have to make sure next that the code, like the source code or the performance or the self restoration, is also meet the criteria, because we are about to improve the maintainability here. It is easier to maintain. That's supposed to be a non-functional testing goals, one of it. Moving on to the second one, we have an enhanced knowledge of product behavior. Yeah, of course. Later on, I will explain about the type of a non-functional testing, and all of those types will enhance knowledge of the product behavior, like the software, how is the system works, and by using some test cases, of course. And the next thing is optimize on how the software is installed, set up, executes, managed. So it's more to be on architecture, software architecture. We in non-functional testing, because it is non-functional, like it is a self-explanatory, but non-functional testing could be mean could mean it is a structural testing. Yeah, that's why we have to. That's why one of its goal is to optimize on how the software is installed, set up, executes, managed. So we will learn about the flow of the system. That's the purpose of non-functional testing. So just like the functional testing, we have actually we have a lot. We have a lot of what to test. The first one is the volume, security, flexibility, scalability, performance, and interoperability. So all of those means, like we have no idea about that if I just write it like that. So I'm going to explain it in detail. Like volume, right? Volume is I will speak in LMS, yeah, because that's the problem nowadays as a GTE Polynema student. I think it's Polynema student in general. Volume. Uh, we are we are needed to put our job sheet into the LMSC Polynema website, but it is frequently getting a bad request or gateway timeout error. So that's the volume. The volume is, from what I have seen, the quota of the LMSC is 150 users at the moment. So yeah, maybe the volume testing is kind of not optimized there, I think. And moving on to the next one is the security. Of course, non-functional testing, if the functional testing is finished correctly, like it is accessible, it has no error, and the software working properly fine, it meets the user requirement, but it isn't secure. S- Uh, it has a possible data leak, which is kind of bad. I would say it's really bad because the user don't want to their personal information to be like spread out in the internet, or worse, spread out in the hands of the hackers. So we have to perform more on the security testing because it is as important as the other one. And the flexibility. Flexibility is in some case we can take an example on the responsiveness of the website. We can say about the loading time. We can say about the multiple platform or multiple device, and test also the user interface and user experience. So that's about the flexibility. And then moving on to the next one, we have the scalability. Like for a certain application that is already big software application like Tokopedia or Bukalapak, of course they have so many features, and despite of their having so many features on the same server, right? Uh, the application still works properly fine. So why is that? We have to take a look on the scalability testing. And for the performance, like I've mentioned on the flexibility, it has a part of flexibility performance. Like it is the loading. Is it the loading time take a lot of time because the user don't want to wait long. Yeah, we have to provide a good user experience. And the next one is interoperability. Interoperability is just like communication between one software to another. So, oh yeah, I would like to give an example about the Zoom because it is like it is interesting for me. Interoperability. If we are the the student want to access the class, like JTI Polynema, yeah, uh, we click on the website, right? We click on the website on the link, but it can handle on the Zoom application in desktop version. So that's about the interoperability. Like we have to check if we use multiple device on the same client because we have so many products, right? So that's expected to be yeah to be executed. The interoperability testing is one of the criteria that makes non-functional testing success. Okay, to summarize, both of them are essential and complete each other. Functional testing, non-functional testing, all of them are supposed to make our software like verified gitu. Apa ya kayak uh, it has gone through many testing process and it is ready to deploy, ready to public, and it is ready to be used by many people. So I'm taking from three websites as my source. Like uh, most of my classmates took the source from Guru 99, but also I use tutorials point and software testing help. Other than that, yeah, the picture tells itself. And always thank you people after having a presentation. That's of course, yeah. Thank you for the quote. Thank you for looking to my video. Thank you for listening out. I hope it is useful for someone out there, and of course for me because I need the mark. Yeah. But thank you as always, Mr. Kwairi. Have a good day also, and I will see you in the next video if that's the case. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.